We're here for the wrap-up of Day 2 of the Space Symposium here at the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs. Rich, tell us a little bit about the highlights of today.
Today was a big international day with the two heads of agencies panels that we had. The first panel was what I will call the traditional space that people think of, the NASA's, Canadian Space Agencies, ESAs, et cetera. That panel certainly, again, like everything else, has the shadow of the Russia-Ukraine conflict that's going on and how it's adapting. And I think one of the things, there was sort of a resounding collective bit that where they all agree space is hard, but politics makes space harder. And again, there's political science and then there's engineering science, and engineering science is a lot more stable. And trying to navigate that environment is becoming the challenge that they're all trying to figure out. And on the side, and the secondary panel, you had the emerging nations that are the ones to watch. You've got your Egypts, you've got your Portugals, you've got Brazil, you've got Australia, which has a huge presence here. And making a declaration there. They are also looking to find their place in this ecosystem. But one thing I think you're seeing on stage and off stage is people are building partnerships and teams. And I don't make this sound like it's middle school or something like that, but they're picking team members. They're scouting team members out to who they want to be working with. That is actively going on here. And as everybody is saying, they can't do it alone. So they're looking at prospects. So that, I think, really stood out for me today.
Yeah, I wrote a story for tomorrow's paper on how all about the discussion on the Ukraine. And the comment that really stuck with me was from the head of the British space, the UK Space Agency, Paul Bart, I think. Who said what happens on Earth it affects what happens in space. And that's clearly the case. The sanctions have prompted the Russians to withdraw cooperation on the International Space Station. And it's also impacting the Mars rover mission. That launch that was scheduled for later this year probably isn't happening and might not happen until 2024.
I don't know if I would obviously there's a lot of orbital mechanics that are way beyond my math skills could ever imagine, but I don't disagree with anything you've said there. But I think what you're also finding is you're finding a lot of companies and other countries that are starting to jockey for that position and to help fill that gap. And again, when you hear companies talking commercial stations and you're talking new launch capabilities, new access, new everything else, this year may truly be a challenge. And obviously they'll figure out the orbital mechanics, but I think they will find the partner that they're looking for to keep going forward. And I think that's an important thing that people understand here at Space Symposium this time is that there are a lot of prospects out there for it. This is a very different symposium than what we've seen in the past, to where we saw promise. Today, the potential is on display.
Yes, and there was a lot of talk about the Orbital Reef, which two companies with many connections to Colorado Springs, Blue Origin and Sierra Space. Dennis, you've covered a little bit of that. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, Blue Origin doesn't have a big presence yet, but they're getting one. They've eyed South Denver as a place that they want to put their campus, and they're hiring a lot of people right now. They're kind of doing it quietly through LinkedIn and aren't making big press announcements or anything like that. But they've been having a series of TED Talks through the different companies that are participating in the Orbital Reef. So they've had some at Amazon Web Services, AWS, Sierra Space, Blue Origin, as we mentioned, Boeing, and just been explaining more about the Orbital Reef project, what people have described as a business park in the sky, so to speak, and just talking about how they're going to have the living pods. They're going to be inflatable. They're going to be up to 3 stories high. You can do your research. You can live up there. Blue Origin talked about wanting to take travelers up there, scientists up there, not the traditional astronauts, and make it an enjoyable experience, not just the view, but the whole mission and the whole travel, and make it a lot more friendly. So that's been really interesting, and I like the way they've been delivering more information about that project.
Will Amazon deliver up there?
That, you know what?
Are you
The
asking how
line-
far your Prime membership goes?
But that's exactly, so in all seriousness, that's exactly what they said, was that, look, we have such good artificial intelligence that we almost know what you're going to buy before you buy it, and you'll get it the next day. And so we want to use that AI and translate it to what some of the space needs are and what we can do with Orbital Reef. So it's been really cool following that project, and these companies in Denver are only going to grow bigger. Sierra Space is hiring hundreds of people. Same, Blue Origin, dozens now, but these companies are really going to ramp up as Orbital Reef comes to fruition. In fact, just yesterday, NASA gave them their SRR, a very important review process that they have to pass in order to move to the next stage. So,
And
good news.
Speaking of teams, I found the second panel interesting because you had Spain and Portugal teaming together on launching 16 satellites. Didn't they fight a war hundreds of years ago?
They did, and this is where, again, this really is a truly new era for space, all of space. And again, at today's Warfighter Luncheon, there was very clear comments by Lieutenant General Burt about the partnerships that they were looking for, both nation state and commercial. And again, yes, there are traditional alliances, but there are a whole set of new alliances that are unfolding here. And when the Artemis Accords were defined for how we're going to get back to the moon, that really is sort of becoming the springboard for who wants to work together and who wants to do what. And I don't want to say that it's going to just be, are you pro-Artemis or anti-Artemis or anything along those lines, but it is starting to separate into who wants to play, who wants to go, who wants to do what. And people are being very selective about the teams. And so it makes for some really interesting historic relationships. We've looked at the NATO alliance as one thing. Well, again, space is going to be creating a whole new set of alliances, and they're looking for corporate players to be right alongside those nation states because they're all capabilities, because everybody has said they can't do it alone.
Anything we want to wrap up with?
There is something we want to wrap up with. We had the fortune of Space Foundation to have Wayne be a part of our Space Symposium history. Wayne, I will dub him the Dean of the Space Symposium Media Corps, as covered all of our space symposiums. And what we at Space Foundation have done is we presented Wayne a brand new award that will somehow make it on a bookshelf or be a great napkin holder on a windy day to commemorate his 37 symposiums. You will always be welcome with the Space Symposium Media Corps. You will always have a pass with us to come and be a part of it. We are grateful for telling our story, because you've seen Space Symposium grow from one ballroom that contained all the exhibits and all the presenters and all the attendees in one spot. And now we are over 2 campuses, we are over 2 exhibit halls, we're over 10,000 people, 200 speakers, 600,000 pounds of freight in an exhibit hall, and it has literally going virtual. You have seen it grow. We're grateful.
Not to mention 24 hotels.
24 hotels, 9 buses, and partridge in a pear tree somewhere in there too.
All right, that wraps up day 2. We'll be back tomorrow for day 3.
Congratulations.